How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Black Bart Gaming and welcome back to another Lost Ark video. Now, in this video we're going to be covering Argos. He recently released to the NAEU region, and while a very easy fight, he does have a few mechanics that can be a little hard to understand if you don't have some pre-existing knowledge of the fight. So in this video we're going to be going over all the mechanics, and I'm going to show you how to beat Argos first try, no problem. Now, before we jump into the video, don't forget to like as well as subscribe to the channel, and let's dive on in. Now, before we even start talking about fighting Argos and his mechanic, let's actually talk about the prep we need, because it's just as important. So the first thing you're going to need is to be 1370. I know that's pretty obvious, but in order to fight Argos Part 1, you need to be 1370 to even get into the arena and collect the rewards. Now, the second thing you're going to need to have is 320 skill points to 340. This is my sweet spot in the number of skill points I feel is effective. I went here with 321, so it is absolutely doable with 321, but if you can aim a little higher, it'll be a lot better. Now, the next thing I think you would need is your engravings to 35 points, and this is 2 skills completely maxed out with 1 skill level 1. 35 feels like a sweet spot to me because you have quite a bit of power with these engravings, and it's going to make the fight much easier. Next, I would highly recommend you have enough gems, typically level 4, but if you're working towards a lot of 5s, you should be okay even if you don't have all the gem slots filled out. Last but not least, you should have quite a few HP potions on you. I keep at least 100 on me at all times, and I would highly recommend using the rare blue ones. We are tier 3 now, so the green ones are not appropriate in my opinion, unless maybe if you're a mayhem berserker and you only have 30% HP. But otherwise, highly recommend at least the rare potions, especially if you don't have a support with you. Alright, now that we're done with the preparations for Argos, you're going to jump into the arena and let's begin. And the first mechanic you're going to be greeted with is the Sun and the Moon mechanic, highlighted here on the screen. So keep in mind the Sun and the Moon mechanic will be present on your character throughout the entirety of the raid, and it will swap at various points. In the next part of this video, we're going to be going over the Sun and Moon mechanics and the different things that work alongside it so that you know exactly what you're looking for during it. So the first mechanic we're going to be covering is what I call the pizza mechanic, and this mechanic is going to have areas that will light up either sun or moon color. It will flash briefly for a second the color that it is, and then after a short delay it will deal damage to the player if they are not the same color that they're standing in. So the next mechanic we're going to talk about is the inside outside mechanic, and Argos will do a huge stomp. And the inside or the outside would either be moon or sun. Essentially whatever color you are, make sure you're standing in the corresponding color, because if you're the opposite color, you will take extreme damage. Also keep in mind whenever he does this mechanic, whenever he do it the second time, it will be flipped in terms of sun and moon. So you can prep for that in the future. And if he is staggered, it will reset it. So just keep that in mind. Next is the orb mechanic. Argos will summon 4 orbs. Either it will be sun or moon. If you are the same color, pick up the orb only once. If you pick up more than 1 orb, or pick up an orb if you're the opposite color, you will be dealt heavy damage. Next is the mini pizza mechanic, and Argos will jump to the center of the map. He will do something similar to the pizza mechanic where he does the different colors flashing, except this time it will be a memory game rather than a reactive game, and what you need to do is stand on the corresponding colors as they flash, because if you're not standing on those colors at the time, you will be dealt damage, and at the end of the memory game he will do a huge burst of damage, and if you're not standing in the right color at the time of the explosion, you will be dealt very heavy damage. Just keep in mind, no matter how the colors flash at the end, it will always be in the same locations, and I will have them on the screen now pause so you know exactly where it will always end. Next is the breath mechanic, and Argos will put a huge area of effect around him, either sun or moon, and if you're the opposite color standing within this area, you'll get a breath bar. When the breath bar fully fills up, you'll take pretty heavy damage. Now if you are the same color as the area, you can stand inside safely in DPS. Now the next mechanic we're going to explain is the Sundial mechanic, and Argos will spawn a sundial under him and it will slowly count down. Players will also get a buff of 10 stacks of sun or moon on them depending on what they are at the time. So if you DPS him with either of those buffs on, it will add a stack counter to him. If you have too many of one or the other, it will push him out of the neutral state, and under him he will either be sun or moon. Now if the timer reaches 0 and he is either sun or moon, the opposite sun or moon will be completely wiped from the map. So in order to avoid this, either 1, you can stop DPSing him entirely during this phase, or 2, whenever he has sun or moon on him, whatever the opposite color is, need to hit him a few times until he is neutral again. Now if you are a support class, I will highly recommend you hold on to your stacks, because since you don't do that much damage anyway, generally speaking you can use that to equalize him to neutral. Finally, let's talk about his major wipe mechanic. And Argos will jump center of the map, and he will shoot out a huge wave of energy in all directions. The area will be covered with safe zones that will help you avoid the one-shot mechanic. Now after the wave come out, these safe areas will spawn at the 12, the 3, the 9, and the 6 o'clock location. The easiest way to track which one you should stand in, you will just basically multiply the number that you are in the party. So for example, I'm 4, and you multiply it by 3. Since 4 times 3 is 12, I will be at the 12 o'clock location whenever the wipe mechanic comes up, regardless of what color I am. So as you see in the footage here, the wipe mechanic starts and I walk to the northern side and I get into the color that matches my color to avoid getting one shot. So now that we've covered most of the dangerous mechanics, let's talk about Argos himself, because I do think he has a handful of attacks that is worth mentioning. So generally speaking, when you're fighting Argos, try not to stand in front of him or behind him, because he has headbutt moves, forward charging moves, and then he has kicks. Outside of that, he does have a few abilities, like when he jumps up and do a double twirl thing, he'll do a huge blast wave to the outside of him, so just get close to him and you'll avoid this mechanic. And then he also has another move where he will send 2 cracks in the ground. If you stand center of the cracks, you will avoid damage, unlike I did here in this. Now outside of all of those moves that we explained, he does do like this meteor thing that can be a little dangerous, but generally speaking the rest of his moves are pretty inconsequential to the fight. Just try to avoid them. Now at this point you should be close to beating Argos, and that's all the mechanics you actually need to know to beat him. If you accomplish all of these, it'll be a very easy fight and you'll get the phase 1 complete fairly easy. Now with that said guys, thanks for watching the video. Hopefully this helped you out. Don't forget to like as well as subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for phase 2 coming out very soon.